Hello there. This film today is all about the M4 Sherman Tank that were modified to a system to enable them to be duplex drive, which was allow them to navigate in the sea with two propellers mounted at the rear to allow the tanks to move. Now they had to have skirts all around them because a 40-ton tank, as you can appreciate, it motored into the sea, it would sink. So to prevent the tanks from sinking, a rubberized canvas system was added. The system of duplex drive was tested on the lakes of England and Scotland, and the results were most satisfactory. Unfortunately, the Allied headquarters didn't think to test them at sea, as this will be one of the reasons the failure of the tanks to support the infantry at Omaha Beach on the 6th of June 1944. On June the 6th, 1944, 6,000 yards offshore, the tanks of the 741st Tank Regiment launched their duplex drive tanks. 29 were launched, 27 sank. 135 crew lost before they'd even commenced any action. A very sad start.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to another of my YouTubes. My name's Chris, and we're down here in Torcross at the location of the Sherman Tank that Ken Small rescued from out in the bay. It was a Sherman Tank that was used in as part of the Allied exercises back in 1944, and it was lost from one of the landing craft as it was coming in to the beach as part of the exercises. Now this particular Sherman Tank was a duplex drive amphibian tank, so it was designed to swim in from a couple of miles out. It would have had a canvas screen all the way around it, and it had two large propellers on the back that would drop down and engage and give the tank some thrust towards the beach. Now bearing in mind this tank weighs nearly 40 tons, it was an incredibly brave, just remarkably brave on the part of the crew to take part in this in this sort of exercise. This is just a short update on the Sherman Tank Memorial here at Torcross, and I just wanted to show you how the continental radial engine is still intact, still in the tank after all those years. And also quite interesting how the engine compartment goes through to the central part of the tank, and it just begins to make you think about how noisy and how much noise there was inside these things. This is a 9-cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-cylinder air-cooled engine. Quite remarkable how the crews put up with the noise. Not that they had any choice, but I think this is really telling, very interesting, and worth a short film. Okay, all the best. Take care. See you. And interestingly, my father served in the 13th and 18th Hussars back in 1944-45, and he was using one of these duplex drive tanks. His particular tank had was the Firefly conversion with the larger gun. This is an earlier version of the M4 Sherman with a cast hull and a Continental R975 air-cooled engine in.
5 crew occupied this tank. 5 crew, surrounded by the armour-piercing shells in the turret, fuel to supply the engine is also contained here, and very thin armour, so the crew were always quite anxious about the next attack that might come, because as the Germans nicknamed these Sherman tanks Tommy cookers, because as soon as they were hit they exploded. Another nickname was the Ronson lighter. It was a very, very dangerous occupation. As you can see, this is a very cramped conditions to work and operate a machine in. Very brave men indeed.
Up to around about 400 horsepower, ran on regular gasoline. They carried around about 175 gallons in when they were full of fuel, and that gave them about 120 mile an hour range. Now it had, this particular tank had the 76mm cannon, sorry, 75mm cannon, and the armament on this on the hull at the front was round about 75mm, so only about 3 inches thick. They're quite a tall tank, so it was quite visible to the other tanks, or being shot at by the other troops, which was one of its slightly downfalls. But anyway, we're going to have a closer look around and see what we can glean. We'll just walk across the road, and I'm going to just have a look out into the bay, and you'll see where all the training took place. So there were roadblocks across this part of the road here.
It was back in November 1943 that Devon County Council was informed by the War Cabinet that Slapton Sands area was to be totally evacuated to permit part of the South Hams to be used for practice assault landings. This was one of the most traumatic episodes in the area's history, involving the clearance of 30,000 acres and 3,000 men, women and children who were evacuated at the end of 1943, taking their belongings, livestock, pets, and in many cases farm equipment with them. These local people, some whom had never left their homes and villages, had just 6 weeks to pack up and move away. Many had friends and relatives nearby who accommodated them. Farmers doubled up their land, and some moved away from the area, never to return. They made way for 15,000 US troops who, over the following months, engaged in battle exercises, often involving live ammunition. On the night of the 27th of April 1944, a terrible tragedy unfolded just off Slapton Sands, on the coast of Devon. 946 American servicemen died during Exercise Tiger, which were the rehearsals for the D.Day landings on Utah Beach in Normandy, France. As part of the build-up to D.Day, in 1943, some 3,000 local residents in the areas around Slapton, Street, Torcross, Blackhorton and East Allington were evacuated from their homes in order for the American military to carry out these exercises. The area around Slapton Slams was selected for these exercises because it bore a great resemblance to parts of the French coast, the location chosen for the largest invasion by sea in 1944. The beautiful and usually tranquil River Dart filled up with landing craft and ships for the operation. Nissen huts sprang up in Coronation Park in Dartmouth. New slipways and ramps were built on the river's edge all the way from Dartmouth up to Dittisham. Exercise Tiger was designed to be as realistic as possible, and on the 22nd of April 1944 it began. Landing craft loaded with soldiers, tanks and equipment were deployed along the coast. However, unbeknown to the military, under cover of darkness, 9 German E-boats had managed to slip in amongst them in Lyme Bay. 2 landing ships were sunk and a third badly damaged. Lack of training on the use of life vests, heavy packs and the cold water contributed to the disaster. Many men drowned or died of hypothermia before they could be rescued. Over 700 Americans lost their lives. Despite this, the rest of the exercise continued at Slapton, but with disastrous results. The practice assault included live firing exercises, and many more soldiers were tragically killed by friendly fire from the supporting naval bombardment. Because of the fears of its impact on morale, the terrible loss of life during the exercise was not revealed until long after the war. Later that year, on the Sunday the 4th of June, the people of Dartmouth were ordered to stay indoors as tanks rolled through the town and troops converged on the harbour with its landing craft and ships. The following day, 485 ships left the harbour, taking a full day to clear the mouth of the river, and at dawn on the 6th of June, the invasion of France began. But it was thanks to the training at Slapton that fewer soldiers died during the actual landings, and so the training in Devon was not completely in vain.
We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. Never give in. Never, never, never. In nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honour and good sense.